Hello and welcome to Inside Katsina on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Now, since time immemorial, agriculture has been the mainstay of northern Nigeria's economy. But years of neglect has forced the sector to take a backseat in terms of developmental value. However, in recent years, some northern states have woken up to the reality that agriculture needs to be restored to its past glory for the improvement in the quality of life of their citizens. And one of such states is Katsina. In our last episode, we sat down with Dr. Aminu Waziri, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Katsina State. And he gave us insights as to how the Katsina State government, under the leadership of His Excellency Governor Aminu Bello Masari, through people-oriented policies and programs, was able to record immense successes in the area of agricultural restoration and upliftment. He gave us an overview of the ministry and the workings of its various departments and agencies and how they function in helping the ministry attain its objectives. Now, in the concluding part of our discussion, we continue our examination of the individual programs and policies that have contributed to the overall development of the agricultural sector in Katsina State. Let's take a look.
You see, just as the name implies, you cannot miss out Ministry of Agric as far as a layman perspective of what the ministry does. Well, we are fully in charge of providing enabling environment for productive agricultural performance across the state. As a ministry, we have 8 departments, out of which we have 4 specialized departments that support the core functions of the ministry. And of course, we have an implementing agency that after policy formulations, activities kicked up from the ministry or as it comes from other international donor agencies and our support partners across the globe, we do utilize Katarda, Katsina Agricultural Development Authority. It's one of the parastata that is key to the implementation of our core functions. We equally have what we call FASCOT. It's a farmers supply company. Farmers supply company is an integral part of Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and they basically focus on fertilizer sourcing in form of intervention, reaching out to producers, reaching out to farmers, selling to them in a subsidized prices, as well as pesticides and other form of chemicals that are used in agricultural services. And of course, we have Katsina Agricultural Project Unit that is directly under our Forestry Department. Then we have the FADAMA, popularly known FADAMA program, which of course it advances and continue to transmute into other names, but the household name today is FADAMA, is equally an offshoot from Katarda. And recently we do have other programs that like IFAD, CASP, etc., etc. All are units and departments that actually support our core functions as a ministry. You see, the whole idea of this government, Governor Masari's administration and the revitalization of agri sector is actually encapsulated into the popular restoration agenda, as you rightly observed. Yes, you can see clearly by my side there is a sign that guide us on what the restoration agenda hold for us and for the state and for the teeming farming community in Katsina State. What we made when we came on board was a sort of business as usual in the agricultural sector. I mean, what I mean by business as usual, you see, the whole idea is the conventional way of doing agric or agric services. A place, an acre of farmland that is supposed to provide not less than 15,000 metric tons of grains is giving out 1-2 metric tons. It's an issue for us to digest and find out what is really going on. So that is part of why the Katsina restoration agenda, the agricultural component of the restoration agenda, has to actually digest and analyze issues like that. We met a situation whereby an expatriate organization is giving out whole lot of capital investment made by the state to such expatriates to manage. Under normal circumstances, I'm trying to refer you to the Shanghai agricultural initiatives and what have you. But then, what is most important for a common man is the result. When you invest heavily in agriculture, the justification for that investment is the result. If I'm investing and I'm not getting the commensurate output, then that means something is wrong somewhere. That's why when I started, I say, we're looking at situation beyond a normal, conventional way of agricultural services. And of course, we said no. We have to really look at the best way to go about by this investment. I mean, with this investment, the best is to deregulate, bring in private investors, let them run the investment. Because we so much believe that if government should invest so much in certain enterprise, then government shouldn't have any business in getting too much involved in that business. Katsina State government has done so much from its inception until this moment in agriculture. Come to think of the Anko Brewer program that was done 2016, 2017. A lot of grassroots farmers are now big-time farmers, millionaires, courtesy of the CBN Anko Brewer scheme that has this ministry and the state government in the forefront, that organizes and leverages on the opportunities provided by the federal government to our teeming farmers. There are so many multiple programs. The programs of tractors and equipment providing for the farmers at a highly subsidized prices. Until this moment, every year government budgeted not less than 300 million to service the loans given to those beneficiaries of tractors and equipment for the purposes of what? Boosting agricultural fortune in Katsina State. come to think of massive rehabilitations of ice dams across the state. This ice dam facilitated real-time agriculture and agricultural value chain. As I'm talking to you, I'm undertaking desilting. I'm currently desilting Gangara Ice Dam, which is programmed to end by Friday, this coming Friday, just before the rain season commences in earnest. The idea of desilting that dam during this period is for us to ensure that waters for this year is actually trapped and dammed, so that immediately the dry season is coming, we have enough waters that is being trapped for what? Irrigation purposes. So the dam is properly being desilted, irrigation canals rehabilitated completely, the generator is there, is for us to service and power it immediately the dry season set in. Come on, what are you taking? Project what? I'm imagining, I'm seeing wells from this singular act. And that's what we intend to do with other ice dams that particularly provide basis for dry season farming across the state. Yeah, the government has done so well in the previous year in terms of fertilizer procurement, distributing at a subsidized, highly subsidized rate for our teeming farmers. And of course, you know, definitely as a journalist, you must be aware of what this government has done so far in terms of fertilizer procurement and fertilizer distribution. Until recently, when we came on board, we feel that there should be an enhanced way, innovative approach toward this fertilizer procurement distribution to farmers, so that the real on-time farmers will get this fertilizer, not the middlemen. You understand? And what we are doing right now is for us to engage producers of these fertilizers, especially NPK, engage them to a sort of tripartite form of agreement. The government in one place, farmers, real farmers, and the company on the other side. Supply this after making assessment on the likely requirement for our teeming farmers. This is why I emphasized previously that this CASPA project is indispensable in the modern day farming, because CASPA could have analyzed how much farmers we have on ground, how much fertilizers is required, how much strategy we can employ to distribute these fertilizers. So for this year, this is the strategy we are employing. At least we have engaged 3 companies to come up with this tripartite form of agreement that will be a win-win situation to every one of us. Win-win to the farmers, win-win to the government, win-win to the companies.
Most definitely a win-win situation, especially for the teeming farmers in Katsina State. Fertilizer availability has always been a perennial problem bedeviling farmers at the beginning of every farming season. The Katsina State government has been able to mitigate that problem by evolving a working system of equitable and timely provision of fertilizer to farmers at an affordable rate. It is a fact that the right investment always makes all efforts worthwhile. Such has been the approach when it comes to the methods employed by the Katsina State Ministry of Agriculture to ensure agriculture is restored to its past glory. We'll take a break now, and when we return, Inside Katsina continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Inside Katsina on Trust TV, and we are in conversation with Dr. Aminu Waziri, the Permanent Secretary, Katsina State Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Now, sustainability is the cornerstone of any meaningful development, and we asked the Permanent Secretary what his views are concerning the role of individual commitment in public service in the attainment of meaningful development objectives.
When you have trust in God and you remain committed to the values and ideals, you remain committed to the core functions of that organization, definitely sky will not be your limit. Because most of these ministries, parastatal departments were actually set with a sole aim. The functions are spelled out clearly in the edict that establishes such as agencies. What is expected of us to do is to clearly dust out this edict, study the functions, key onto a particular program that you have, then you pursue it. Just like we rightly observed earlier on, we have in my right-hand side the restoration agenda, the agricultural component of the restoration agenda. You will religiously follow it, you know, with strict consideration to their functions, so that you don't find any overlap. Look at the issue of formation and strengthening the agricultural producers, effective extension service delivery, where we have, as of today, we have a lot of extension workers. In fact, we are distributing motor bicycle to them this week, these extension workers, in order to reach out areas that are really difficult to access, to sensitize and enlighten our teeming farmers. Just remain resolute and committed. Have faith in God. Make reference to your function. Stay focused within the, you know, far view of whatever document you have as your policy statement. Definitely you shall succeed. And above all, you have to motivate your staff, because you're not doing it alone. You have to do it with others. For them, you have to set a record. You have to set a path for them to follow. Then you have to motivate them. Motivation is a very important factor that you cannot discount if you want to succeed in any organization. Above all, effective communication. In all our platforms, our media platforms for the ministry, the WhatsApp, the Facebook and whatever, we update ourselves on our activities day in, day out, so that those that felt they could lag behind could now, you know, get revibrated and key in properly to the functions and why we are here. Let me tell you something. I may not have an understanding of other governors, but Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari is one of the best principals you will love to work ever, because he will want to welcome new ideas that are that can justifiably enhance the fortune of our teeming population. He welcomes those ideas clearly, and he gives you free hand to operate. Until this moment, from the day I took my oath of office and that of allegiance, he has never interfered with my activities. I only consult and brief him on the progress so far. But for him to say, no, this one go to, no. I took my ideas to him, my views, and perhaps at times he makes some adjustments here and there. And of course, such adjustment in form of advice are found to be very wonderful, helpful toward the perfect delivery of whatever objectives were set for ourselves. So believe you me, it's a man that welcomes new ideas. It's a man that gives you free hand to operate once he is convinced that you can handle the task and responsibility, and he had already assigned such to you. we have achieved more than 90% successes so far, vis-a-vis the electioneering campaign and promises made to the Katsina State electorate. In some aspects, we've achieved more than 110%. Some areas, 90%. That means it's perfect. Because if you want to argue with me, we can start in all sectors, and I will, confidently tell you, yes, Masari is able to restore hope and confidence of the Katsina people. Because hardly you have a governor that is as accessible as Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari. Once a leader is accessible, that means he is exposed to listening to what is happening within and above his immediate environment. That's called for, perfection, so to speak. So he has done so well in all these areas: education, agric, health services, water supply, all of this critical infrastructure. And finally, he is capping it by providing what? Major key infrastructural development in Katsina State. This underpass and overhead bridges to congest the already congested areas in Katsina State. And of course, you will begin to think how manage, because if you weigh the revenues and incomes that comes to Katsina State in these 7 years, vis-a-vis the previous administration, you will agree with me that Masari received less than 20% of what they had received in the first 8 years. But yet, we are able to do a lot. So I believe Katsina is a blessed state for having Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari. You see, why I'm insisting on this, check out what comes to the state during these 7 years. Check out what comes to the state during the previous 8 years and compare the development. And you come and tell me whether Masari has performed or not.
Poverty and unemployment are indeed two major problems that hinder the development of any society. And creating an enabling environment to encourage participation in agricultural activities is without doubt one of the most effective ways of promoting agriculture as a sustainable means of livelihood for all those involved, which goes a long way in providing employment opportunities, boosting food production, and revitalizing the economy. And the Katsina State government, under the leadership of Governor Aminu Bello Masari, is well on its way to achieving that monumental feat for the people of Katsina State. Now, this is where we draw the curtain on Inside Katsina for this week. Join us again next time as we take a deep dive into another sector being impacted by the restoration agenda of His Excellency, Governor Aminu Bello Masari. Until then, I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for joining us.